You are Locked On Warriors POSTCAST, part of Locked On Sports Bay Area, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yo, what is up, everyone, and welcome back to the Locked On Warriors POSTCAST. I'm your host, Eric Engel, aka Triple E. You might know me as the former producer for Murph and Mac on KMBR. And tonight, it was not pretty. The Warriors won. They got it done in an absolutely ugly, sloppy, just a slog of a game against the Hornets. 97-84 is your final score. Steph Curry did not shoot well. John Kuminga did not have a big scoring night. Klay hit a few shots, but never really got rolling. But you know what? None of it mattered as the Warriors won their 10th game in their last 12 contests. The one Warrior who did make his presence felt was GP2, Gary Payton II, the young glove, as he returned from illness, and you could feel the impact right away with his energy and just his presence on the court. He was mic'd up. It was great. And what the heck was with that chippy ending? Just an absolute pathetic lack of sportsmanship by Miles Bridges, Grant Williams, and company. Not really a big surprise, I guess, when you're talking about someone like Miles Bridges. We will break it all down. But first, I want to thank all of you for watching us on the Locked On Sports Bay Area YouTube channel. Please hit that subscribe button. Also, thanks for listening on the Locked On Warriors podcast feed. However you're getting the show, we appreciate it. Also, make sure to check out the Locked On Warriors Daily Show for more in-depth coverage. Cyrus does a really great job. And today's show is sponsored by LinkedIn. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNBA to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. I feel like we just got to get right into that scuffle at the end. And we'll get into some of this other stuff later. The Warriors playing defense even when their offense doesn't show up. Klay Thompson coming off the bench, having a nice impact, and GP2's impact on the game as well. But I want to start off with, what the hell was that, man, at the end right there? I mean, Warriors trying to run out the clock. Lester Quinones, a guy who doesn't get a lot of run. He actually just today was converted to a full guaranteed NBA contract. No more two-way trips down to Santa Cruz for Lester Quinones. I mean, hopefully he still gets trips down to Santa Cruz. Shout out Santa Cruz. Check the hoodie if you're watching on YouTube on the stream. But yeah, I love Santa Cruz. So hopefully he still gets to go down there, but just not with the Santa Cruz Warriors. You know what I mean? But Quinones just dishes in a little layup at the end. There's about a second or two difference between the shot clock and the game clock. The Warriors can't just run the clock out, so he throws up a little layup. I mean, Miles Bridges is standing, 5-ish feet away from him and could have played defense, could have denied him the ball, but just decided to stand there and watch and expected Lester to just not lay it in when you need to put up a shot anyways. Like, what is that, man? I mean, get that unwritten rule crap out of here. I mean, and for all guys to be standing on their morality, Miles Bridges of all people is not the man to be doing that. And of course, Grant Williams is the great agitator. You remember him from that Celtics series. He's gonna get his nose in there and he's gonna insert himself and get involved. If you were watching that all the way to the end, you saw Kerr kind of just with this puzzled look on his face the whole time walking around. By the way, big news for Steve Kerr earlier today. Just signed a contract extension to make him the highest paid coach in NBA history. It's $17.5 million per year, a $35 million 2-year extension for, in my opinion, one of the greatest head coaches of all time, probably the current best head coach in the NBA. I don't know who else you would point to want to lead a group of stars. Steve Kerr is hands down the best. Got his 500th win. Not tonight, but last night in their win over the Lakers. Well deserved. But to go back to that scuffle, I don't need these guys who are getting suspended for really, really bad off-season, off the field, off the court incidents to come in here and enforce morality on other guys in the game. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. And you saw the entire Warriors bench, or everyone who was on the bench at the time, the entire Warriors starting lineup, laughing about it. You could see Klay Thompson waving him away from the bench when the scuffle started to get close. He was telling him, get the hell out of here. You saw Draymond Green at the end kind of getting into it, letting his voice be heard, and Trace Jackson Davis hanging on him with his arm around his shoulder, just laughing. And you saw Kerr and Quinones just laughing together. And I don't know how Lester Quinones got 2 technicals in that and was ejected. That makes no sense at all. That was weird. That was really weird. Let's just say what it was. That was really, really, really weird. But this whole game was weird, man. I mean, from the jump, neither team could buy a bucket. This was an ugly one. Both teams, neither one of them could take the lid off the basket. It was very clear that both teams were playing on the back end of a back-to-back, and that's what both teams were doing. It was ugly. It was very ugly. The Hornets are clearly a shell of a team without LaMelo Ball, who by the way should have been a Warrior. And he's had a lot of ankle injuries, the same as Steph Curry had in the beginning of his career. And you just hope for his sake he figures it out. Maybe you can talk to Steph, get some doctor recommendations for how to fix those ankles. But without him on the court, I mean, they had Miles Bridges was pretty much their only offensive presence throughout this entire game. Defensively, even though the Warriors weren't scoring, the Hornets weren't really stopping them. The Warriors were just missing layups, and it seemed like they got to the rim whenever they wanted to, got open looks from 3 all night long, just missed shots. It's a sign of tired legs. Maybe it's a adjustment to getting back to the grind of the NBA schedule. Back to back after the All-Star break is probably a shock, at least at some level, to these guys on physically, on their legs and things like that. And it was a pretty physical game. I mean, you kept seeing Kevon Looney just banging inside, just mowing dudes over, grabbing boards, and the Hornets play a really small brand of basketball. We were used to the Warriors, playing Draymond at the 5 and the small ball lineups. Well, they got Grant Williams out here at the 5, and that man's a small forward. He is not a center. He is not a power forward. He is a small forward. So Warriors absolutely took advantage of that. Just cleaned up on the glass tonight. They had 53 rebounds as a team, and the Hornets only had 43. So pretty wide margin there. And there wasn't really one guy on the Warriors to step up offensively. You ended up with 5 guys in double figures. Steph led the way with 15. Wiggins had 14. Podziemski and Klay had 13. But the one guy who really did show up and made a big impact, at least I felt like he made a big impact, was Gary Payton II. He seemed like the only guy with legs tonight. He was jumping out of the gym. You saw him putting dunks in, getting rebounds early on in this game, setting the tone defensively. He was finding his rhythm, and John Kuminga looking to get some assists. I believe he found Gary Payton a couple times in that first quarter, and setting good screens. And by the way, Brandon Miller plays some of the worst defense I've ever seen in the NBA. That dude does not seem to know how to run around a screen. He doesn't know how to pick if he's going high or low. It just goes right into the screener and just stops, which was great for the Warriors tonight. Not so great for the Hornets, but he's a young guy. He's not known for his defense. He's got a pretty sweet jumper. I think he'll be a fine player in the NBA. In the NBA, I think he'll be around for a long time. At the half, this was just putrid. The Hornets from the field, 25.6%, from 3, 25%. The Warriors from the field at the half, 38%, and from 3, 30%. Gary Payton led the Warriors at the half with 8 points. This was bad. This was bad, folks. The Hornets only managed 29 points in that first half. This is the lowest point total that any team has posted in the NBA this entire season. Only 2 teams have posted first half point totals similar to that or close to it. The Heat on January 15th and the Hornets again on January 14th. So just really not the Hornets year. Obviously, we said it before. We just said it. LaMelo Ball, without him, the Hornets just have nothing offensively. Just absolutely nothing. He is the engine that makes that car go. And Brandon Miller, nice piece. Miles Bridges, nice piece. They have a couple things to build for the future with, but they don't have anyone driving the car. And that's LaMelo's job. He is their superstar. Without him, there's a reason they're 14 and now 42 on the season. And Just a really, really, really sloppy game. But the one thing the Warriors did do really well tonight was defend without fouling. We talked about this last night. Steve Kerr brought it up in the postgame yesterday. It's really important for this team that they can't let teams creep back in the way that they do. And yes, the Hornets crept back in tonight, and that's not the same as what we've seen in other games. The reason the Hornets crept back in is because Steve Kerr just emptied the bench and let those guys figure it out. He could have, once they brought it within 10, put Steph and Klay and Draymond and Podziemski and Kuminga back in and ballooned that lead a little more back up to the 21, 23 point, whatever it was, lead that they had earlier in the game. They didn't really need to do that. This was some valuable learning time, good learning experience for these young dubs, the Lester Quinoneses of the world, the Guy Santoses of the world. And it was really good to see them continue to push at the end and not just roll over and coast to the finish line, but the bench was really grinding it out. And that was good to see. Those are good, valuable minutes for all of those young guys. And the first Warrior tonight to reach double figures in scoring was Andrew Wiggins, and that wasn't until near the 8-minute mark in the third quarter. Again, just absolutely sloppy game. Brandon Podziemski had a couple nice plays. He drew several charges in tonight's game, just extending that lead that he has on the NBA lead in charges taken. And he had a couple nice moves right at the end of the third quarter. He used that tornado move and opened himself up for a wide open jumper from the free throw line as time ran out in the third quarter. And you saw the Warriors winning over and over and over and over again in crunch time. In the first three quarters, I did not calculate this for the fourth quarter of play, but in the first three quarters, the Warriors outscored the Hornets in the final 2 minutes of each of those three quarters, 18-5 combined. That is winning basketball. We talked about this on the last podcast. They need to be able to close these quarters out and stop giving away free buckets, stop fouling. And that's exactly what they did tonight. Yes, it is the Hornets. Yes, they only have 14 wins. They were still hot. They had won 4 in a row coming into Chase Center tonight. And the Warriors, this could have been a game where they overlooked it. Having the Lakers last night and then having the defending champion Nuggets coming to town on Sunday, tip at 4 p.m. for that one, by the way, that this is a very easy game to overlook, a trap game, if you will. And especially against a young team that's hungry and on a win streak. And you saw the Hornets playing with energy in the beginning of this game. I mean, they were running around. They were forcing a bunch of turnovers. The Warriors, that is very concerning. 21 turnovers tonight. That is inexcusable. You saw in the first quarter, I mean, Klay had 2 travels and almost back-to-back possessions. You had Wiggins stepping out of bounds. It was just sloppy plays. Steph ran into a guy and got called for a charge. I mean, how often do you see that from Steph? It's almost unheard of. And so this was, in a lot of ways, this was just a game they needed to win and move on, turn the page. It was sloppy, but they gutted it out. You can win a game against the Charlotte Hornets this way. You're not going to win a game against a playoff team this way. So get this bad one out of the way now against the Hornets, against a bottom feeder, and move on. Get ready for the Nuggets as they come in on Sunday. Get ready for Jokic. That's going to be tough. And we'll see how they measure up against a legitimate top seed, playoff championship contender in the Denver Nuggets. We got a lot more to get into on this show. We got to talk a little bit more about the Warriors' defensive effort tonight, which was outstanding compared to what their offense looked like. And I want to talk a little bit more about Gary Payton II. He was mic'd up tonight. It was super fun. There was a funny moment he had giving Steph some grief about getting old. And we'll get into that on the other side. I'm Eric Engel, aka Triple E, and we will be right back. This is the Locked On Warriors Postcast. With Stitch Fix, you get a stylist who understands your style, size, and budget. They do all the shopping for you. It's the easiest way to update your wardrobe this season. I just give my stylist my size, style, and budget preferences. I order boxes, and I order boxes when I want and how I want. No subscription required. And they send 5 just for me pieces, plus outfit recommendations and pro styling advice. I definitely need help with that. I keep what works, send back the rest. My stylist always sends just the right pieces, and the fit is on point. It's like they have style ESP. I don't even know how they do it, but they just get me. They just get me. Get me in a lot better clothes than just a hoodie and a hat sometimes. Style that makes you feel as good as you look. Get started today at stitchfix.com/lockedon. That's stitchfix.com/lockedon. stitchfix.com/lockedon. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and I want to talk about Gary Payton in a second. He had a great impact on tonight's game. I believe the Warriors broadcast made him the player of the game. He had 12 points in 12 minutes. He's efficient. He's efficient, if nothing else. And he gave the Warriors a much needed lift defensively, effort-wise. Inside, he's getting buckets, rebounds, and mind you, this guy is like not that much taller than me, and he's going up against 7-footers. That is wild to me. That's just absolutely absurd and insane. The bunnies on this guy are out of this world. But it's not just all these things that he does on the court, all these little like glue guys. He's such a like glue chemistry guy in every sense of the word. I mean, he, aside from just how he plays on the court, it's his energy, just being in the building, just being a fun guy to be around. I mean, this is the same guy who wanted to be with the Warriors organization so bad that he took like a PA job, a video editor job with the team, just so he could stay in the building when he was fighting for that original contract. And he has just become so valuable to this team over the years. You saw how much they hurt when he went to Portland, and how much better they became when he came back. He adds so much to this team. And a lot of it is what is just his vibe, man. Like just the energy that he brings to other people. He was mic'd up on tonight's broadcast, and if you watched, you just he's making all sorts of funny noises. He's talking mess to Seth Curry, not Steph. And he's, just walked in, looking him right in the eye, not even turning around to look at the play, just telling him, it's just me and you, bud. It's just me and you. I'm not even worried about that. And then before the game, he's going over to Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. And he's heckling him for some grays that he's got going on. He's sitting there combing through his hair and pointing him out. And he's calling Steph a silver fox and all this. I mean, it's really good. It's really good, man. And obviously it's you love what he does on the court. You can't be this kind of fun-loving, goofy guy off the court and be taken seriously if you don't also produce on the court, and he does. And when you have a guy like Draymond who has that red hot intensity, just burns at 1,000 degrees, you need someone to lighten the mood in the room. And that's exactly what GP2 does. He is the best glue guy the Warriors could have. I don't think I could find one other, like third, fourth guy off the bench that impacts their team in the way that GP2 does with the Warriors. He's really become such an invaluable piece to them, and he's so much better with the Warriors than he would be with any other team. I mean, he could contribute wherever he goes, but I think we saw that when he did go to Portland a couple years ago, and he just didn't really fit in there. He was injured all the time. The teams didn't really know how to use him, and I think Kerr has kind of found the perfect kind of line to walk with him, because he is so effective and so efficient in the minutes that he plays. But it does diminish if you leave him in there. He just plays so hard that he's going to hurt himself eventually if he just gets those, 25, 30 minutes a night. It's just too much wear and tear on a body like that. He's for the way he's banging inside against dudes that are twice his size and just going toe to toe and meeting dudes in the air at the rim. I mean, it's impressive what he does, but it's not sustainable for, 35 minutes a game if you were to hypothetically start. So it doesn't translate. You can't just say, well, he got 12 points in 12 minutes. So if he gets 24 minutes, maybe he'll have 24 points, or 36 minutes, maybe he'll have 36 points. It doesn't work that way. So it's great to have a guy like GP2 And it was fun to see him out there, doing his thing. We got to get in on the other side to some of the Warriors defense and what they did. But real quick, I just want to say happy birthday to Andrew Wiggins. We had a birthday last night. Trace Jackson Davis turned 24. Andrew Wiggins turns 29 today. And he celebrated with 14 points. And he was leading the Warriors, first Warrior to achieve double figures tonight. So there you go. Happy birthday, Andrew Wiggins. On the other side, we will talk a little bit more about what the Warriors did defensively, or more what they didn't do defensively, and what they need to improve before they go play the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic at Chase Center, 4 p.m. Tip this Sunday, off day tomorrow for the Warriors. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel, and we will be right back here on the Locked On Warriors postcast. Our partners at eBay Motors have teamed up with Locked On Fantasy Basketball host Josh Lloyd to bring you some of the best fantasy picks each week all season long. Whether you're prepping for a daily draft or scouting the waiver wire, every week we're going to provide you players that are guaranteed to fit your roster. And this week, this should not come as a surprise to Warriors fans. We are going with Keontae George of the Utah Jazz for us as our eBay Guaranteed Fit Fantasy Player of the Week. And if you watched the Warriors last game against the Jazz before the All-Star break, you know why we're going with Keontae George. He poured in 9 threes, and 33 points. Man was unconscious and giving the Warriors the work. Josh Lloyd from Locked On Fantasy Basketball is going to help you win your fantasy championship, and eBay Motors knows a championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you can make sure your ride stays running smoothly. Brake kits, LED headlights, roof racks, bumpers, whatever your baby needs, eBay Motors has it. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, it's guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Plus, at these prices, you're burning rubber, not cash. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Welcome back to the Locked On Warriors postcast. I am your host, Eric Triple E Engel. And tonight, the Warriors, they played pretty well on defense. They played defense without fouling, did not put the Hornets at the line a lot. This has been the big bugaboo for them down the stretch. The Hornets only had 11 free throws tonight, and the Warriors had 10. If they can keep teams close like this, this is a very, very good sign for the Warriors going forward. Now, the Jazz are not the biggest team, or the Jazz, excuse me. We're just talking about the Jazz during that break. The Hornets are not the biggest team. As we talked about earlier, they're running out there with a bunch of small forwards playing center. So they aren't going to pound the ball inside. They aren't going to look to score in the paint nearly as much as a team like, say, the Lakers. So the way the Warriors played defense tonight, they're going to need to continue some of that Sunday against a much bigger, more formidable interior opponent, with Nikola Jokic coming in with the Denver Nuggets and Aaron Gordon, and they got a bunch of big guys who can get in there and score. And this team, we've talked about it many times, the way that they go far this season in the playoffs is with their defense. The shooting will be there. The shooting will show up even tonight when they were at halftime and they were just not able to get anything going. I mean, we talked about the stats a little bit earlier. Warriors at the half, barely over 30% and from three and under 40% from the field. But they did finish the game over 40% from the field, 42%, almost 43% from the field. So they did improve. The offense will come around. You can almost guarantee that it will, with a guy like Stephen Curry and with a guy like Klay Thompson and all these other contributors that they have, all the young guys, the Kumingas, the Pajemskis, all of these players end up contributing offensively. Wiggins, it'll come. What doesn't just show up, though, is effort on defense. That needs to be a focus point of this team if they're going to continue to win down the road. 10 wins in their last 12 contests. That's very, very, very good. 10-2 in the last 12. That is how you continue to climb this playoff ladder. If you want any hope of getting out of the play-in, There's really only one team that you can catch, and it's the Pelicans in the sixth seed. It's a stretch for the Warriors to even get there, but if they want to get there, it's predicated on their defensive play. And tonight they forced 18 turnovers, 17 turnovers. No, 18 turnovers. But they continue to shoot themselves in the foot by, they turn the ball over 21 times themselves. And that's just not good. Obviously that you can't have a negative turnover differential every single night and expect to win. You can win against a team like the Hornets this way, but you cannot win against a team like the Denver Nuggets that way. The Denver Nuggets game, we called the Lakers game a must win. I'm not saying this Denver Nuggets game is a must win. It's not. What it is a measuring stick game. And it's a good chance for the Warriors to see how they can stack up against another top tier playoff contender. And we talked about this in the Clippers game, but they didn't have Kawhi Leonard. And it looks like, Jamal Murray's a little banged up for the Nuggets. We'll see if he's able to make it out onto the court for their matchup on Sunday. He will have an off day to rest, so maybe he'll make it out there. It's not the Warriors don't really have an answer for how to play those big bodied teams, and especially when they roll out this small ball starting five, because their strategy is run guys out of the gym. Well, a lot of these teams with these bigger lineups have big guys who can move now. You look at the top of the West, you got Nikola Jokic, very mobile big man. You got Chet Holmgren, very mobile big man. You got Karl Anthony Towns, mobile big man. This is something that the Warriors are going to need to find an answer for. And I don't know if they found it tonight, because this team is such a different makeup than those types of teams. The small ball lineup really benefits the Warriors when other teams go to it, because you're just playing into their hand. It allows them to do what they want to do. And you're not going to beat the Warriors in a 3-point shooting competition and transition buckets. That the Warriors are going to, if you play their game, they'll beat you. And so, like I said, you can beat a team like the Hornets with a sloppy turnover night, with 21 turnovers, with 30% shooting from three. You can beat a team like the Hornets. That's not going to happen against the class of the West. It was good to see them. We did have positive signs from Klay Thompson tonight. More contributions off the bench. He's getting his minutes. He's remaining active in the game, even when he's not scoring. And that's really, really, really impressive. We saw it last night, Klay getting involved with rebounds and assists, and he did it again tonight. And he was all over the floor. He provided a spark off the bench when no one else could buy a bucket. Klay splashed in 2 threes to kind of lift the lid off the cylinder a little bit. And it was good. It was a good all-around team effort. There wasn't any one guy who jumped out tonight to just lead the way. That's why we focused on Gary Payton II. Why not give GP2 some love in the postcast? It seems like it's a different guy every night, and we talk about it every night. It's like the strength in numbers team. It's a different guy stepping up time and time and time again. Last night, Trace Jackson Davis was the guy. Tonight, it's GP2. Maybe we'll have to create a benchmark segment in this third block where we talk about, just who that other guy is, that strength in numbers type guy. I'll workshop some stuff for you guys, and I'll get back to you on that. And that's about all the time that we have for today. Thank you so much for joining me on this Locked On Warriors postcast on Locked On Sports Bay Area and on the Locked On Warriors channel. I am Eric Tripoli Engel, and we will be back. Not tomorrow. Almost said tomorrow. Sunday. After Warriors Nuggets, tip is at 4 p.m. at Chase Center as the Warriors wrap up their homestand ahead of going on a 4-game road trip on the East Coast that should feature the likes of Chris Paul returning. So something to look forward to for Warriors fans after this measuring stick game. And it'll be another tough Eastern Conference road trip. You got the Celtics and you got the Knicks. And those two teams are going to play it tough. We'll also go see Draymond Green's favorite former teammate, Jordan Poole. So it'll be an interesting road trip. A lot to look forward to. But first, Denver, Nikola Jokic. Warriors going to have a good idea of where they stand after that game. Thanks again for joining us. I'm Eric Tripoli Engel. This has been the Locked On Warriors postcast, and we will catch you next time. Peace.